Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. We're going to talk about Star Wars because, of course, what the hell else are we going to talk about this week? But Star Wars. We're going to talk about how these media outlets that have been defending Star Wars all this time are going to be discarded like a used tissue. Because it turns out that even J.J. Abrams says nothing in The Last Jedi was undoable. The Last Jedi editor, The Last Jedi presented a lot of challenges for the Rise of Skywalker. The people working on the movies, Lucasfilm, Disney, they're turning their backs on The Last Jedi. And now a lot of these websites that spent the last 2 years defending The Last Jedi are freaking out. They're freaking out because even the actors have turned on The Last Jedi. They're making comments leading up to the release of The Rise of Skywalker that, of course, the man babies are taking those quotes and running with them. And these media outlets look very, very foolish now. Because here's the thing. You guys were basically the separatists. You were being used by Disney to fight their battles for them. And then when they're done with you, they're going to send Darth Vader in to kill you all off. They don't care. They don't care. I think Disney already knows that The Rise of Skywalker is not going to meet expectations. They're over it. They're moving on. They're already talking about what happens after The Rise of Skywalker. Kathleen Kennedy already talking about all the plans they have for Star Wars after The Rise of Skywalker. They're stepping over the sequel trilogy and moving forward, and that's it. That's it. But some people just can't let it go. They can't believe that they were essentially pawns being used to fight Disney's battles for them for the last 2 years. And they're a little upset. They're a little salty. So we're going to talk about that. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants here on Clownfish TV. We're at about, 83,000 subs, I think. 83,000. Hoping for 100,000 soon. Thank you so much for the support. So Birth Movies Death posted this the other day. They're salty because actors like John Boyega have come out and said, hey, wasn't a huge fan of what they did in The Last Jedi. It's not a good look because it destroys the narrative. Star Wars actors could try being positive about the movies they're promoting. The discourse, once again, rears its ugly head. Of course, the discourse being, I think, that Pokemon thing that Rian Johnson was doing. So, in case you've missed it, the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker press tour is underway in advance of next week's release, and perhaps in response to the ridiculously overblown controversy over The Last Jedi's bold story choices, that's what we're calling them, everyone be dumping on The Last Jedi. Boyega referred to the film's creative choices as a bit iffy, craving more story for Finn and a stronger dynamic between the various new lead characters. I think most fans would have liked that. Director J.J. Abrams softly criticized Rian Johnson's meta approach to the film, saying, I don't think that people go to Star Wars to be told this doesn't matter. Mark Hamill has gone the record many times about Luke's journey, often mentioning that he wished Luke had more scenes with the other original trilogy characters. 100% true. Everyone seems to have thinly veiled criticism about the last film, or two in Hamill's case, the implication being that no, this one will be better. Honestly, it's a shitty look. It's a shitty look. You be hating on The Last Jedi. It's unprofessional. It's unprofessional to make these comments. It's actually unprofessional to make these comments after all the cast and crew of a movie are colleagues, and in dissing the film, they're dissing their co-workers in public. That wouldn't be tolerated in most workplaces, and it shouldn't be tolerated within a cast. Furthermore, when promoting your work, it really helps to at least appear to be proud of the work that directly leads into what you're promoting. Criticizing a film is different when you worked on the film to when you're an audience member or critic, and whether or not the actor cares about the work, they should at least pretend to when promoting it. Well, the promotion's over for the Last Jedi. Now they're moving on to The Rise of Skywalker, and part of the promotion for The Rise of Skywalker is acknowledging that The Last Jedi was a shitty movie. It's a shitty movie. You can say, I worked on that movie and I freaking hated it. You're allowed to say that. Once your disparagement clause is up, your NDA is up, you can say where the hell you want to. It's literally part of the job. Can anyone really claim that, say, Bruce Willis's disinterested press interviews made them more excited about whatever film he was promoting? Yeah, this is part of the promotion, dude. You don't understand. Disney knows The Last Jedi was a shit show. Disney knows The Last Jedi damaged the Star Wars brand, possibly beyond repair, at least in this decade. They know that it's been damaged. So for them to even throw shade at it, means that they are basically out of tricks. It's over. They're acknowledging it was a poorly conceived film, poorly conceived trilogy. Kathleen Kennedy is moving on. It's dead to them. You guys were used by Disney and Lucasfilm to fight their battles for them for 2 years, and now they're going to toss you aside like a piece of trash. This is exactly what's going on. That's why these media outlets, I think, are so salty. They spent all this time white knighting for this movie that to Disney is just product, and it was product that misfired. And I'm sorry. They're letting their actors say whatever they want to because everybody knows it. Everybody in Hollywood knows The Last Jedi was a turd. There are people in Hollywood who absolutely hate the movie, but they were afraid to say anything. And so now the Band-Aid has been ripped off. You know, people can say whatever the hell they want to. Disney and J.J. Abrams are even saying it was a shit movie. So now they're criticizing how John Boyega made a dig at Kelly Marie Tran. I don't think that's actually what he was doing. The other way to read this kind of carry-on is it's even worse than unprofessionalism. It's cynicism. Taking massive public shits on the last one has become the norm for many franchises these days, and the behavior generally seeks to reassure people who hated the last one that this will be different. That's right. We've seen it happen film after film in Transformers and Terminator franchises. Unfortunately, those PR campaigns so routinely overfluffed their present projects that when the new films came around, they actually were better. Bumblebee and Dark Fate, was it? Audiences were turned off, burnt by too many broken promises and bad movies. No, actually, The Rise of Skywalker, to me, seems like it's basically dead to Disney at this point. Again, when you've got Scott Mendelson being like, well, this one could strike out, and it's not going to hurt Disney that much. And Kathleen Kennedy's like, yeah, we're just going to, we're going to throw all the spoilers out there and we're just going to move on. They're stepping over. They know they screwed this sequel trilogy up. They know they did. They know they did. The worst thing about all of this for The Rise of Skywalker and for the atmosphere around it is that it makes everyone tired of discourse. Criticizing your own films in public creates negativity around the very idea of those films. And though it might give a few haters vindication, oh, there's more than a few. It's not going to get the general public excited to go to the cinema. They're not. That's the problem. They know they fucked up. They know they did. Even if the actors dislike the choices made in The Last Jedi, if they want to promote The Rise of Skywalker, they should really pivot their answers toward The Rise of Skywalker. And he ends it with, try to save what you love, not destroy what you hate. Then, it's funny. You go to the comments, and one of the comments is basically like, Andrew, you're a privileged white man telling John Boyega what to think. Ouch. Okay. J.J. Abrams says nothing in The Last Jedi was undoable. Again, they're not even hiding it. There is disdain for this movie, and they're just stepping over it. You guys are the ones who have been fighting this battle, and Disney themselves don't care. Again, you're the separatists. You were useful, but now you're not. So they're going to step over you. Sorry. That is the way corporate America works. So, The Force Awakens director J.J. Abrams was thrilled. Nothing he originally envisioned for the closing chapter of the episodic Star Wars saga was rendered undoable by Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi when returning for The Rise of Skywalker. Abrams admits he was never supposed to helm Episode 9, developed under Colin Trevorrow, but returning for The Rise of Skywalker was an opportunity for Abrams to fulfill certain expectations he envisioned for the finale of the Skywalker saga when developing The Force Awakens years earlier. No. They had no plan. Come on, guys, don't even bullshit. And no, I'm sorry. There were things that were undoable. You can't bring Luke back again. He's gone. You killed Snoke, so now you have to phone it in with Palpatine. He was never planned as part of this trilogy. There was no plan. There was no plan for this trilogy. But again, this is more shade that J.J. Abrams is throwing at The Last Jedi. I always knew when we were doing Episode 7, there were certain things that felt for me, and I was never supposed to do this movie. I would need to see at the end of the trilogy, at the end of all these 9 films. You mean you guys didn't sit down and plan this? Why didn't you plan this out? Here's a basic outline of 7, 8, and 9. We're going to get different directors, but we know where it's going. So he's interviewing with Peter Travers. Kathleen Kennedy called and said, would you come back on? One of the attractions was, oh, I actually get to do these things instead of the back seat. I wish. And they just thought up Palpatine, because, again, Rian Johnson killed Snoke. So I guess maybe we can undo that by saying, what, Snoke is Palpatine? I don't know. There's some connection. So when Johnson began penning the sequel, Abrams was very interested to see what he was going to do. We sat and had a meeting, and he obviously read the Force Awakens script, and then I read his script. So they worked on The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens simultaneously. So is this like some like whacked gift exchange? We sat and had a meeting, and he read the Force Awakens script, and then I read his script. Okay, what I loved about was its subversive nature. I loved that it was about shock. It was about surprise. It was this meta take on the Jedi. It was a very different approach than what I would have done, than anyone would have done, which is one of the reasons it was fun to read. Yeah, like bad fan fiction. And I was and am a real fan of him as a director, so I knew he was going to do something extraordinary with it. What I was ultimately, in my selfish myopia, I was thrilled, was that there is nothing rendered undoable from all the things that happened in the movie. So I love his take on the movie, but I am so glad that I can come in and just undo it. I can undo it. In a weird way where The Last Jedi ends, it doesn't fundamentally shift the paradigm, except for Luke being dead. So I found myself feeling like, oh, well, that story could still happen, even though he killed Luke and he killed Snoke. And he is going to undo stuff. He's going to tell you exactly where Rey came from. He's got, so that subversion is going to get subverted. Is that a word? It's going to be subversion. So here we have The Last Jedi editor, Marianne Brandon, a woman? A woman criticizing The Last Jedi? How dare she? Admits that the Rian Johnson directed Last Jedi presented a lot of challenges in terms of where Episode 9 had to go to finish the saga. Yeah, because they tied off a lot of the questions raised in The Force Awakens. They did not answer a lot of questions to the satisfaction of most people. It was like a really bad fanfic. Again, she says, I really enjoyed it, but there's always this, I like Rian Johnson, but the middle chapter of the sequel trilogy posed multiple problems. In other words, unfortunately, Carrie Fisher died, and she didn't obviously die in Episode 8. She's a character that had to be figured out, and that was a huge challenge. Brandon told Awards Daily, but I think J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio did an amazing job. Luke died, which was a problem. It was a problem. Look, they killed Luke off. Luke was supposed to live until at least Episode 9, I think, in the original rough draft, and Rian Johnson was just like, screw it. Screw it, we're going to kill Luke off in the second act, and then it's not my problem after that, is it? Because I'm not coming back for Episode 9, so I can do whatever the hell I want, and it's your problem. Next director to figure it out. And I think Colin Trevorrow maybe couldn't figure it out. And they called in J.J. Abrams because they were freaking out. So I think when you're doing a trilogy, you can't just abandon a story. So yeah, they're throwing shade at Johnson. Johnson's an amazing filmmaker, but you can't abandon a story. So whatever he chose to put in that film, those things that are dangling have to be dealt with. And you have to deal with them honestly. So you thought the whole thing through. Again, this is a dig at Rian Johnson. We like Rian Johnson, but he fucked up Star Wars. So now we have to fix it to the best of our ability. And everybody's like, look, it is what it is. We're going to blame all these factors. We're going to blame The Last Jedi. We're going to blame fatigue. We're going to blame, freaking Jumanji or Cats or whatever the hell. But if this movie does not perform the way they think it's going to perform, they're going to step over it and just move on to something else. So everybody is throwing shade at The Last Jedi because they have to, because it is the problem. And if they want to get fans back on board, they have to show that the Rise of Skywalker is not going to be more of The Last Jedi, but the damage is done. It's completely done. This trilogy is done. And, it's Rian Johnson's fault. So these actors don't have to be nice. They don't have to be nice, especially John Boyega. Finn got shafted. We talked about that before. He totally got screwed. Everybody got screwed. This movie fucked Star Wars over. So we're gonna wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe. ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.